This is Cronkite News.
6 months after the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in the country, the US becomes the first to reach 3 million cases, and Arizona is being called the global pandemic hotspot. Plus, what the Vice President and Superintendent of Madison School District are saying about schools reopening in the fall. And as the Suns enter the NBA bubble, Deandre Ayton and Monty Williams tell us what to expect.
Cronkite News starts now.
Welcome to this Cronkite News Update. I'm Jalpan Nanamati. COVID-19 is not slowing down. The United States hit a grim milestone today, becoming the first country to surpass 3 million cases of COVID-19. There were over 60,000 new coronavirus cases reported in the US in the past 24 hours. That's a record high. As for Arizona, the health department reported 3,520 new cases and 36 more deaths this morning. That brings our state's total to over 108,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases and over 1,900 deaths.
The governor closed gyms and bars, but left dine-in restaurants, right, nail salons and hair salons open. The science behind it tells us that being inside in closed setting with poor ventilation is really the worst place in terms of increasing risk for COVID-19. So if you're going to close one indoor business, why not close them all? I think we really need to look closely at all our options, and we shouldn't shy away from another shutdown if that's what it takes to control the spread and save lives.
According to New York Times, Arizona is the #1 hotspot in the world when it comes to the coronavirus. According to data over recent outbreaks released this morning, the Times says Arizona came in at #1, Florida at #2, and South Carolina at #3. They say 60% of the worst cases are actually states in the US, with only 10 of the places on their list being countries. The article did clarify that other low-income countries might have made the list if they had more testing. Governor Doug Ducey's office responded to the New York Times article this morning, stating the report is lacking context, which is misleading and inaccurate. In a statement, Ducey's office said Arizona is doing more testing than Brazil and is working to increase the testing as well. They also claim both Brazil and Peru have a higher positivity rate, with New York having a more than double the positivity rate during its peak than what Arizona is at now. The statement ended with, quote, "None of this is to diminish the situation in Arizona. It is serious and the state is working to address it, but this reporting is misleading at best." New data from the Harvard Global Health Institute shows some researchers believe Arizona should shut down immediately. The institute houses some of the top scientists in the country and boasts their risk assessment map is one of the best data tools developed during the pandemic. The map breaks down the amount of daily cases per state, and Arizona is top of the list with an average of 53 new cases a day for every 100,000 people. That's 13 more than the closest state, Florida. The national rate is only 15 per 100,000. Meanwhile, Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego is pleading Arizona's case when it comes to testing shortages and under-resourced medical staff. In a video this morning, Mayor Gallego calls on the federal government for help. Take a look.
Unfortunately, our medical professionals don't have the resources they need, and so they are being asked to make difficult decisions. I want to stress, if you are having a heart attack, if you think you may be having a stroke, please go to the emergency room. There is the ability to care for individuals, but we are not meeting the standards of care in all cases that we want. We've been very stretched with intensive care beds. We also need the federal government to help us with both more resources for our medical personnel, more medical personnel, and then additional funding, particularly for our safety net healthcare system.
Vice President Mike Pence had a news conference today, sharing plans to help Arizona by sending more medical personnel. He also talked about plans to reopen schools this fall. He says the CDC is revising its guidance on reopening schools after President Donald Trump tweeted he disagreed with them. Cronkite News reporter Isabella Montelaro explains how local school districts plan to welcome students back.
Wednesday, Trump tweeted he disagreed with the CDC's guidelines on reopening schools, calling them tough and expensive. He also mentioned he may cut the funding for schools if they do not reopen their classrooms this fall.
So we're very much going to put pressure on governors and everybody else to open the schools.
Shortly after Trump tweeted, Vice President Pence announced plans for new CDC guidelines after a meeting of the White House Coronavirus Task Force at the Education Department.
We know that the risk of serious illness to children is very low, and there are measures we can put into place to make sure that we don't see the the spread of the virus or outbreaks in individual schools by having children learn in a single classroom or learn outside as often as possible, not go into larger settings. And this is all the kind of guidance that the CDC is putting forward.
In Arizona, Governor Doug Ducey postponed the start of school to August 17th. In an interview with Arizona Horizon, superintendents discussed their plans for reopening this fall, including hybrid classes, adjusting bus routes, and changes to certain elective classes.
But for those who are intending to use the buses, we will use the social distancing where possible. And we will expect that they wear masks on the bus and throughout the day whenever that distancing isn't possible.
For choir, if we can maintain the 6 feet social distancing and have the mask coverings on, then we can hold choir. For band, it just means an adjustment that we don't use woodwinds or brass, but we use other instruments and other type of learning that one can do with band.
Both superintendents say students are expected to wear masks for the entire school day, with an exception for recess and lunch. Some schools in Arizona will offer full or part-time in-person classes. Students may also have the option of continuing their education remotely for the fall semester. Isabella Martellero, Cronkite News.
State Superintendent of Public Instruction Kathy Hoffman released a statement in response to the White House summit on safely reopening America's schools. In it, she expresses concern about bringing students and staff back if Arizona's COVID-19 cases aren't under control. Our other big story today: Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams asking the FBI to do an independent investigation into a deadly officer-involved shooting over the weekend. The Bureau will determine whether or not 28-year-old James J. Garcia was unlawfully shot on July 4th. That day, officers were reportedly sent to a home in the Maryville area after being told Garcia was attempting to stab someone. The officers spoke to him while he was sitting in his parked car. That's when they claimed Garcia pointed a gun at them and 2 officers opened fire, killing him. The WNBA has distanced itself from Atlanta Dream co-owner U.S. Senator Kelly Loeffler following her objection to the league's plans to honor Black Lives Matter. Loeffler, a Georgia Republican, wrote a letter warning the WNBA against subscribing to, quote, a particular political agenda. The letter followed the league's announcement that it would display Black Lives Matter prominently on its basketball courts. Yesterday, the WNBA said Loeffler hasn't served as a governor of the Dream since October 2019 and is no longer involved in day-to-day team business. Mercury forward Brianna Turner spoke to Arizona Horizon this morning about Loeffler's statement. Take a listen.
I was disappointed in that. I don't really understand how the rebuttal to Black Lives Matter is to plaster our American flag. Like, supporting Black lives and equality does not make you American. It does not make you hate your country. Like, so I didn't understand that rebuttal either, but I would encourage her to maybe Zoom us or FaceTime us or talk to us to understand our side. I feel like she could be a great ally for us. She's a senator. She's in Georgia. Like, we talk about voter suppression and on, and it's like we have someone that has direct access to like impact those things positively. So I think she could definitely be an ally if she were to hear our side more.
Former players and members of the WNBA Players Association have called for Loeffler's removal. When asked to comment, the Atlanta Dream said the team is, quote, not a political entity. The WNBA says it will continue to advocate for social justice. The Phoenix Suns could reach the playoffs for the first time since 2010 when the NBA resumes play at the end of this month. Cronkite News reporter Jose Solis looks into what some members of the Sun think about getting ready to play again.
Usually the phrase, I'm going to Disney World, is associated with fun, but for Suns coach Monty Williams, that phrase is strictly business now.
We're not going to ride on Space Mountain and do the Disney thing. This is freaking Braveheart and Gladiator stuff that we are trying to will onto other teams.
When the Phoenix Suns and the rest of the NBA finish out their season at Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports complex in Orlando, there won't be any fans, but Deandre Ayton says that won't bother him.
I'm really excited. It's just going to take me back to AAU. Like, I'm back in the AAU season, so you know that. I feel like we're playing for the semifinals beat jam right now.
7 of Phoenix's 8 scheduled games are against teams currently locked into Western Conference playoff slots. The Suns are 6 games out of the final spot, with 4 teams ahead of them.
I'm playing for the name on my chest and the name on my back. And, you know, obviously we're entertainers and we're entertaining our environment, but it's a competitive sport and we'll be more dialed in and, you know, we'll just take care of the task at hand.
Like Arizona, Florida, where the Suns will be living for the time being, has also seen a recent spike in COVID-19 cases. That total number is now over 200,000,
following the 4th of July weekend?
I think we're good in a way. It is dangerous. It is a thing. I think we just follow the rules correctly. We will be good.
There's going to be things that come up, and you have to expect that and plan for it, and you have to embrace the unknown. I don't think there's anyone going down there that's not concerned.
The Suns left for Orlando Tuesday, knowing that both risk and reward await. Jose Solis, Cronkite News.
Williams says his squad will have a chance to shake off the dust with 3 exhibition games before playing the Washington Wizards on Friday, July 31st. That's it for this edition of Cronkite News. For Arizona news updates throughout the day, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.